Hey, I'm Andy Chanley from 88.5, the SoCal Sound, and you're watching a Here at Home interview. Hey, look on the screen there. That's Lyle Lovett. He
Hey,
is
Andy, how
coming.
are you?
How you doing? Good to meet you.
Good to
Lyle is
meet you.
coming to town. He's going to be here on Wednesday, November 9th at the Soraya with John Hyatt. They call it Lyle Lovett and John Hyatt together on stage at a fabulous facility right here on the Northridge campus, Soraya. And tickets are available now at the soraya.org. Says here tickets start at just $46. My God, to see John Hyatt and Lyle Lovett in concert, that's a pretty good bargain right there.
Well, I hope folks think so. And yeah, John and I are having a great time. John Hyatt and I have worked together like this for, gosh, for a long time, since October of 1989. That was the first time we were together on stage, along with Guy Clark and Joe Ely in those days. And
Wow.
it was the country Bill Ivy from the Country Music Foundation put us together for a few shows for the old Marlboro Country Music Festival in New York. And we've ever since then we've gotten together, every now and then and done tours. The last time we toured with Guy Clark was in 2008. Guy and Joe, and Guy just got to be, got to too ill to be on the road like that. And so John and I started doing the shows, just the two of us, and we get together every 2 or 3 years.
Wow, 33 years.
Never do the math. Don't do the math.
Yeah, so it's probably best not to. But
No,
before we
it's
before we talk,
it's a privilege. Yeah.
well,
I'm sorry to interrupt. It's a to know John High. I was a fan of John's before I ever met him, and first time I saw John on stage was in 1981, January 31st, 1981. John and his entire band were Ry Cooder's band for Ry Cooder's Borderline album tour,
that's right.
and I went to the Paramount Theater in Austin on the 31st of January 1981 to hear Ry Cooder, and was introduced that night to John Hyatt. Ry Cooder kept John was playing a Telecaster, and Ry Cooder kept throwing him solos and saying his name over and over. And so I looked him up after that and became an instant fan.
Wow. He's a fellow Hoosier. We're both from Indianapolis, so I've been
Oh,
following his career for a long time too.
well,
Uh,
he started early. John was a prodigy. Really started writing songs.
yeah, as a teenager, he was out playing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, before we get to you, let's talk just a second about him. Anybody that knows anything about music knows him, and he's racked up some awards. He got the Nashville Music Awards, Songwriter, Artist of the Year, American Music Association Lifetime Achievement Award, the Troubadour Award from BMI, and so forth. 9 Grammy nominations, and you've got 17. So and four wins between the two of you. You guys have a racket going at the Grammys. But what a talent. I mean, the other day I was in the kitchen and I was humming a song and I couldn't figure out what song is that. Oh, it's Angel Eyes, that Jeff Healey
Uh,
song. I'm like, actually, that was a John Hyatt one that he wrote that. And then, A Thing Called Love for Bonnie Raitt, and Have a Little Faith in Me, Riding with the King that BB King and Eric Clapton did. I mean, just everybody likes to record his songs.
well, so many great recording artists have done John's songs, and it's just amazing to sit next to him on stage and listen to him play those songs. His interpretation of his own songs is so special, and you always hear a little something in John's versions that you don't hear otherwise. And so it's to sit next to the mind who thought of those songs really is it's a privilege on stage.
Um, you, on the other hand, are a little bit more inimitable. I mean, there aren't many people that do a Lyle Lovett impersonation. You have your very own style of songwriting, and you've written an album. This is your first one in 10 years.
It was, it would have been the first one in 8 years if it hadn't been for the pandemic. We recorded
Oh,
in November, only 8. We recorded in November of 2019 with the idea of finishing the record in March of 2020 and having it come out, later in 2020. And of course, none of that happened. Hyatt and I were planning a tour in May of 2020, and that didn't happen either. The record finally came out this past May of 2022, so that's the reason for the 10-year gap. But my previous last release on Universal and Curb, Lost Highway and Curb, came out in 2012, and that was the last record. That record fulfilled my original record deal with Universal and Curb, and so I took a little break from thinking about my next record. I just wanted to take my time and figure out how to do my next record. I knew I wanted to do one, but I just wasn't sure. I mean, it was the first time since 1985 that I was sort of free to decide for myself how it might go. And so much has changed over the years in the way people consume music, in the way music is delivered. So I just kind of took my time navigating all that. Ultimately, I got to know Jamie Krentz from Verve Records, and Verve is of course a Universal label, and because of Jamie's interest and because of feeling so at home, having worked with the folks at Universal all those years, I ultimately was grateful that Verve wanted to do my next record. So I'm back on Universal and at Verve, and it's been a great relationship with them, great working with them. They're incredibly supportive, and it's been just fun getting to do it.
Well, lots changed. You changed record labels. You got married. You had some kids. I'm guessing that a guy like you, a prolific songwriter like you, over a course of 8 years, would have a number of compositions piling up. So I would imagine you had your pick of the litter when it came time to decide what was going to be on the record. Is that the case?
Well, I had songs when it came time to record. I wanted to record the ones that sort of meant the most to me at the time and represented my life at the time. So most of the songs on the record, most my songs on the record are were inspired by my children and becoming a dad for the first time. I was 59 when my children were born, our twins were born, and it was all new to me. I always thought I wanted to be a dad, but I had no idea what I was in for, and no idea how much I'd enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, I became a dad just after 40, so I put it off a little while as well. And I've come to the realization that it's a game for the for the younger set. Your kids are what, like 5 now?
They're 5, yeah, my hope is that it'll keep me young. But so far, it really has just been just pure joy being with them and going
Yeah.
through every growing phase with them. And because of the pandemic, the silver lining for me in the pandemic, but being out of work aside, but the silver lining was getting to spend every day and night with my children for 2 full years, and that's
Yeah.
something I value greatly.
It was really, really great. And what's really interesting is your kids. I have a 12-year-old and a 7.5-year-old, but yours are of the age where they don't know another life. They don't know a time, that having a pandemic and being on lockdown, that was just the way things were. And you have your parents around all the time. That's pretty special. It's in some ways a gift.
Well, it really was for us, this past summer they came out on the road with me for about the first 3.5 weeks of the tour, and it was really our first time away from home, and so that was a great adventure.
Yeah. On the record, the record, by the way, is a fine record. It's beautiful. 12th of June's a lovely song, but there's a song on there that I'm gonna guess they might have had something to do with. Pants is overrated. Is
But
is the name of it?
you
Am
know,
I right?
I got credit for that being a pandemic era song, but it really wasn't. It came from just struggling to get them dressed one day, and which is, can sometimes be like a wrestling match. I just thought it occurred to me as they were resisting getting dressed, it occurred to me that maybe they were right. This whole convention that the world imposes wearing clothes just may not be the right thing at all. And children are born with a lot of wisdom, so I was giving them credit for that idea.
Yeah, maybe nudism is the way to go. You know what I do? Let me give you another one for your repertoire here. When I had a hard time getting them to pick out pajamas to get ready for bed, I resorted to using the MC5 song "Kick Out the Jams," but it was "Pick Out the Jams." You gotta pick them out. It worked like a charm. So maybe you can add that to
I
your
will
nighttime
try that.
routine.
I will try that. They're definitely to the age that they like to pick out their own clothes at this point, even pajamas. So yeah, that's a new thing.
Oh yeah. Well, the days of you getting a word in edgewise at the dinner table are over. So,
And it's just, and it's just the best thing. I love nothing more than to hear them explain their day or talk to each other, negotiate with their mom about something. It's fascinating to me.
it's the best. Yeah, we always go around the table and we ask what was the best thing that happened to you today, and everybody takes a turn to saying what their favorite thing of the day was, and it's amazing when it's was lunch. It's just fun to hear their viewpoint on things.
John Hyatt has some great songs about his children as well. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of wisdom that I've been able to take in from dads.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you make me think of Randy Newman's memo to my son. Just the futility of trying to think you're in control of a parenting situation at any point. Other things that I was surprised. It's not surprised, but I didn't know before. You're quite an accomplished equestrian. So in your spare time, if you're not at home, will I find you on a horse?
I've always loved horses, and I always had grew up out in the country north of Houston, and we always had a horse on the place. Uh, I've always loved horses, but I didn't grow up going to horse shows. I didn't grow up competing in that way, and really came to that kind of late. Uh, uh, we Even though we had horses, I didn't start getting interested in showing horses and having show quality sort of horses until my early 40s. So I've really only been doing that for a little over 20 years, but we have we've always raised our own, bred our mares and raised our own babies, and so I kind of carried that activity forward through our show horses. We compete in Western events, reining and rein cow horse, and I've gotten to do a little bit of cutting over the years, but really more as a guest. But it's the kind of horses that come from a ranching tradition, from a working tradition, are just such fun to ride, such fun to ride. Haven't done as
Well,
much of it since our children were born, and because of the pandemic. But it's definitely something I'm still involved in. We have a breeding stallion who's done well over the last 15 years, and so I'm very much involved in the industry, and have some of my close associations are my friends in the horse world.
nice. Yeah, and a bona fide cowboy right here on the screen. You're in the Texas Cowboy Hall of Fame, so you made up for lost
Well,
stuff.
that's a nice that was a nice honor, and I'm not sure I belong there, but I was certainly glad to be there that night. And another one of my fellow inductees that night was a West Texas horseman named Johnny Trotter, and he made the point. He made the true statement that uh, uh, the term cowboy is not something you apply to yourself. It's something that other people call you. So
Bestowed upon you.
you're not a cowboy until somebody else says you are. And so I was honored. I always wanted to be a cowboy.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't? What boy doesn't want to grow up and actually be an authentic cowboy? What
Right.
else don't what
Boys
don't we?
our age,
What was that? I'm sorry.
boys our age.
That's true. Yeah, my hip. What else don't we know about you? What other surprises? You have like a killer risotto recipe? What would people be surprised to know about Lyle Lovett that isn't already on the record?
I think pretty much everything's on the record. But what's surprising to me is that that at my age, I will be by the time we're there at Cal State Northridge, I will be 65 years old, and I started playing out when I was 18, the summer of 1976. And what's surprising to me is I'm still getting to do something that I love to do this much. And I get to do it you know, with my heroes, John Hyatt. When I saw him in 1981, I just thought, wow, that's amazing. Why wouldn't it be something to stand on that stage? Wouldn't it be something to do a show like that? And now, and I'm just grateful for all these years that I've gotten to do what I love to do, and grateful that it's allowed me so much time with my family and to be home. But even before my children, when you go out on the road and play for a living, I mean, I typically do 100 to 110 dates a year, which means I'm home more than I'm gone, and that's really something. I've always been close with my family. I've lived in the same place my whole life, and close with my parents and my extended family. So I'm grateful for being able to have that kind of life.
That's pretty great. Yeah. And by the way, early happy birthday. But I will guess that the stage is probably a fountain of youth for you as well. I just saw Paul McCartney back in April, I guess, at SoFi Stadium. Came out, and honestly, if I'm being frank, when he came out, he looked like an 80-year-old man. He looked like you could see the age on him. But as the show went on, I promise you, he got younger. He went from guitar to piano, back to guitar. He didn't take a break for 2 hours. I didn't even see him take a sip of water. And by the end of the show, you were looking at a Beatle. I mean, it was amazing. It was like a Benjamin Buttons thing. He got younger as it went on. I would imagine that you take a lot of energy from the audience and performing live.
That's absolutely true. And talking about Paul McCartney, there's just everything to admire about him. Wouldn't it be wonderful? To be able to continue performing as long as you want to. I have such great admiration for for people who keep doing it. Willie Nelson and Paul Simon and Bob Dylan, and I mean such heroes to begin with, who are still and who are so such great examples of happy well-adjusted human beings, who care about people in their lives, and who, I mean, just such great examples of how to be beyond their art, which is tremendous. So I've you know I feel lucky that I'm still able to perform, and I hope to be able to just keep performing, because it is what I love to do. And not working for 2 years, or not going out and playing for 2 years. I mean, it does, that was something to wrestle with. When you're not able to do your job, work at your job, it shakes you a little bit. So being able to be back this year, seeing how supportive audiences have been this year, has, just been a great feeling.
Well, I've been a fan
The guys are,
of, what was I gonna say?
I said the guys are just getting up on the
Oh,
on the bus.
nice, nice. It was time to get going. I just
We're
wanted to thank you for your time, and I've been a fan of your music for a long time. Now, a fan of you as an individual. You seem like a really good human being, and I wish all the best to you. And once again, let me say the particulars about the show. It's Wednesday, November 9th at the Soraya here in Northridge. You can get your tickets at thesoraya.org. And it's Lyle Lovett and John Hyatt together on stage. My God, if you're able to get to that show, that's going to be a fantastic night of music. Lyle Lovett, great to meet you, and thanks for joining us here today at 88.5 the SoCal Sound.
Great to meet you, Andy, and thank you for helping us get the word out about the show. John Hyatt and I are excited to come to the Soraya.
Awesome. All the best, Lyle.